Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Kamen and I'm the account manager here at Big Change. Welcome to today's live tutorial on advanced scheduling, which we hope you'll find very useful. Because of the number of attendees, which is increasing as we speak, unfortunately we can't answer all the questions individually, but if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to send them in to Road Crew after. And I hope you enjoy today's session. So during this section, we will be covering the following. So the schedule all feature, scheduling assistant, Hamburger. We went through this on the basic session this morning. So if you did hear that, just pause or do whatever you want in the meantime, because a lot of people haven't actually seen this feature in a while, even though it's quite old. So it's good to have a refresh. We're going through routes, duplicating job into the group job. Again, we went through that this morning as well a bit. Importing jobs, how to import into group jobs via job reference, job group template, job automation, and how to actually schedule from the map. So, just having a look at the chat here to make sure everyone can hear me. Okay, great. So I'll share this screen with you. Hopefully you can all see my demonstration site. So the first thing that we'll be going through is the scheduling assistant. So there are numerous ways of how you can use a schedule assistant to schedule a job. So one way is we go to an existing job. So even though that job has actually been scheduled in, you can look at save and schedule and then have a look at the options here for that resource. So I've put the costs in for the vehicle that I'm linked to. I've also said where I start my day and how much the job cost for me to do. So if we have a look at the admin settings briefly. So in my account administration, manage your resources, and let's have a look at me. So if I edit Danielle Smith, so if I scroll down here, you can see that my default hourly rate is £10 an hour. And then working hours, I've said I work till 8 till 6. If I click on me, it says that I start my day from Big Change head office. So it's also taking that into consideration. So if you do want to start using this feature, it's really important that your admin settings are properly set up so fully utilize this feature. Also, as I said, I am linked to a vehicle, so that's my fixed vehicle. If I go to vehicles and edit, and then search for that vehicle reg. So if I edit again, you can see the cost per mile is 25p per mile, and the cost per day for that vehicle, just for example, is £5. Now, if we come out of the admin settings and go back to the schedule, so as I said, one way is you can go into existing job and save and schedule from there. Well, now, if we go to Unscheduled Jobs and go to Big Change Limited Electrical Testing and use the scheduling assistant from here. So this job, as you can see, there's actually a time constraint there. It needs to be done for the 17th of April. So it looks over, this is currently looking over a week period. I'm saying any time before then. So because it is a test site and not everyone's set up, so as you can see, there's actually very expensive. There's a lot of miles on here, and apparently a lot of people are free to do these jobs. But if I filter, so you can see here, this person is actually really expensive to do this job. So if I keep going here, on the top left, you've got various filters. So if you want to look at a specific resource, operative, engineer, depends what you call it, in your industry, you can do that there. if you want to look for a specific resource group, so my resource is in management, and then skills, so it might be for a specific job you need a certain skill. So you may also want to search that if the constraint is not already automatically assigned to the job type. I'm just going to leave this blank for now. And as it says, you've got limited period there, and you can do morning, afternoon, or other, which is waste, put in the specific time frame. If I say anytime, click search, it's looking at that period there and the engineers or resources in that group. So they're all set up quite well, which is good. So essentially, you know, depending on how urgent the job is or how important the job is, you know, you would select who does what and when. So if you really need to do it as soon as possible, then filter by that. Or if cost is more important, then again, completely depends what you're filtering by. Now, if we go to, yeah, so actually let's schedule a job here. So if we go to scheduling assistant, and then let's say today in the management group, let's see who's available. No one. Actually, let's do it to tomorrow because that time. So if we select Abigail May, so that job is now scheduled to her at that time. So it automatically puts it in for you. Now, with regards to the logic of scheduling assistant for a single job, so as I said, it is based on time constraints, job for resource or vehicle constraints. So if we have a look at, let's say, this job here in view. So if these had resource or vehicle constraints, it would also consider that. If on certain jobs you think, you know, we don't want that resource to do it, doesn't matter, it just needs to be done as soon as possible, you can just simply remove that resource's name. Also, it's another thing that's really important is driving distance to and from the job location. So I said, if I just go back to the resource settings, so I said, these are my working hours. And if I click on me, I am saying that I start my day every single day, big change head office. Some operatives of yours, as I'm sure, will start from their homes. So if that is the case, put in their home address in CRM, you know, maybe in a hidden group called Engineer Homes, and link it to that contact there and say that's where they start their day, from their home. And again, you just need to do that for each day, and for the other engineers if required. And also, if you know that if the system knows their next day is starting from their home, it will know that he needs to get back, or she will need to get back to their home by the end of the day for the next day. Another setting in the general account settings is if you want to allow extra time for different reasons. If I just scroll down. So for example here, minimum free time between jobs for scheduling assistant. So if you want to make sure they've got plenty of time to get to the next job when using the scheduling assistant, in the general account settings, like I said, there's a few settings that you might want to change. There's this one here. So number of minutes late authorized. So if you might say be a bit more lenient, give them 5 minutes extra, and then percentage extra time added to a job when scheduling them. So as I said, there's no right or wrong, depends what setting you want. Now, moving on to the results. If we just go back to Unscheduled Jobs and go to Scheduling System. So as I showed you here, this is based on the times of the scheduling of the jobs at that specific time when you are scheduling. Absences over a period by the period that you're researching aren't classed as working, so we'll take that into consideration. And as I said before, you can filter by the most expensive or most distance, highest distance travel. And the job cost column is based on the resources hourly cost. I'm just reading from something to make sure I've got the exact wording for you. The resources hourly cost multiplied by the planned driving time to and from the job, plus the resources hourly cost multiplied by the planned time of the job, and then plus the miles, so the distance traveled to and from the job, multiplied by the planned vehicle's cost per mile. That was a mouthful. And also extra distance calculated based on driving time to and from the job location, like I said. Now, moving on to the schedule all feature, which is similar but very different as well. So if we go to schedule list view and go on more, some of you may have not actually seen this yet. What you can do is where you can send all, which is sending an email to all these customers in one go, mass cancel jobs, but what we want to focus on is schedule all jobs. So as it says here, there's 45 jobs there. So if you can see, it's grayed out, 45 selected jobs. The first 1,000 will be processed. So it's not, if you've got thousands and thousands, it's not going to do them all for you. And then also you can, like with the scheduling assistant, you can, select the group that you want, any skills that you might need from and to resource and attributes. When you're doing the schedule feature, or when you're using it, make sure that your filters here are what you want to filter by. So for example, if you want to use the schedule feature for a specific customer, make sure you've got the customer's name in there. Also, in the job type, if you want to schedule specific jobs only, then make sure you've got that in. Resource, job group, category, and so on. And again, your date's really important. So currently I've got creation date, but if you want to look at planned date, actual, and make sure they're selected. So this is really important. And once you have put in your filters, just make sure you double check it. So if I go to more, actually let's select a specific customer. Let's just do a big change. 29 jobs. So if I go more, schedule all jobs, and then let's say click schedule. So there's 29 now, as I said. So there'll be a prompt just in case for some reason you do it by accident, but you do have to look for that feature. So are you sure you want to do this? Yes. It will be doing this in the background. So if you're thinking, oh, nothing's changed, it's doing it in the background. So with regards to the logic of the scheduling assistant or scheduler, as I said here, your filters are really important. The resource and vehicle constraints, including individual, group, skills and attributes, like I said, they're also considered. And then it's the 7-day period that you filter by. So I could have moved those dates along from 7th to 14th if I wanted to. And then, sorry, again, I'm just double checking something to make sure I've got all the information for you. If the job is already scheduled like this one, it won't remove those jobs and reschedule it to when it thinks they're scheduled in. So if you no longer want them, if you want them to be reconsidered when you're scheduling, or just click on the job. Sorry, I'm clicking too fast. Click on the job and then go on that drop down, please select and just click save to remove them and allow them to be unallocated. Also, if once you've scheduled and there's not everything's being considered in terms of all the constraints, there may not be that many constraints put in, there's a priority list of what the schedule actually looks for. So the top one is absences, including multiple resources, resource group, resource skill, match travel distance, resource, vehicle, and so on. So from the bottom, it's considering travel time, the least important, contact opening hours, and then time after constraint. Sorry, I'm just reading this question. And then, so that's that in terms of the scheduling assistant. I'll go back to that question after if we have time. Now the next thing is the Hamburger. So like I said, some of you may already have seen this feature before, but it's best to go through it. So if we go on the Hamburger here next to my name, each engineer will have one, or operative. So if I go in weekly view, I could simply move over to the weekly view like that. It is pretty simple to go onto a weekly view, but it's an option. And then if I go to show journey, if I was tracked, you would be able to see my tracking there underneath. So if a customer calls, and says, you know, how long will you be, or where's your engineer, let's say, you'd be able to hover over it and compare the job, and then you'd be able to see the tracking. Let me try and see if anyone is tracked on this website, so it's a bit more relatable for you. Anyway, we'll move on to view jobs on map. So what this does is shows you the journey. So the different jobs. So the first job is all the way down here, and then they're going back to Leeds area, to Manchester, and back again. So it's really easy to see, you know, whereabouts you're going in the country or area, depending on the region of your jobs. But it's a quick way of seeing, you know, are we making the driver go here, there, and everywhere? Next is optimize route. So that puts in the route and calculating different costs. So you can see before and after how much the job would be. Like I said, going back and forth to Leeds. So this would make it, so these three are based in Leeds. This one's furthest away. And you can see that sorted by distance. If I click save, it would then reschedule the job for me. As you can see there, they're moving around. And now another thing, so let's say, another feature, sorry, let's say the engineer calls in sick, you can reassign all the jobs to someone else. So as I was saying earlier this morning, some people, you know, some of their operatives have 10 jobs a day. So you can simply move this over to another engineer and will move the jobs for you. So if I say, let's move them to Bill. So you can see they've all moved over to Bill. Also, if I go back to Bill's jobs, which were my jobs, unallocate all jobs, it would simply move all these jobs here. And the reason why you would use that, if an operative calls in sick, and unfortunately there's no one else to take on his work that day, or even maybe the next couple of days, you would move them here, and then you at least know the job's still outstanding. Cancel all jobs, so this allows you to cancel all the jobs in one go if they can't go ahead for whatever reason. So you'd go cancel, put in a reason if you want, and click yes, but it would automatically do this for you rather than going on to every single job. Okay, and the next part that we're going to talk about is routes. So on the bottom left here, you can create routes. So within certain industries, your jobs may be, this operative may do 10 jobs a day for that specific Monday. So instead of creating the job every single Monday, you can have the route set up here. For example, if I edit this job, if that's their route every single Monday, you can just simply, let me just go back to yesterday. You can simply drag the stops over and it will schedule all those jobs in one go. I don't think it thinks it's got enough time to get there, which is why it's doing that. But let's try it for tomorrow. Yes, it doesn't like the route, so we'll try another one. If not, I hope you understand what I'm saying. So if I create a new route, so route name might be Monday drop off for Bob. So if I click add a stop, so this is using the quick job layout, a lot similar to that. So if I say 123 Street Lane, and my first job is a service of some sort, let's say battery service. Job duration, only 15 minutes, me popping in and out. And then if I add another stop, so let's say I need to go to Addison Grange School, I also need to do a battery service there. And let's say this one needs to be at 11 o'clock. So as you can see here, I'm adding various routes. So you can change the routes if you want and by adding numerous stops. So if I click save, you'll be able, there's so many in here because it's test site. But if I search Monday drop off Bob, you can see there. And you can also see how long those jobs would take that person and how many miles they would be traveling. Moving on to duplicating job and into a group. So what you may want to do is if there's an existing group job, if I create a job here and just quickly create a group job, so there's two features which I'll show you. So as you can see, this is a group job. Now we're going to move this job here into this group job. The reason why you may want to do this is, let's say you've gone to do an install, but a service is required maybe the following week, but you can't see here that a service is actually being done. So for example, we pretend this job's being completed and we want to group them together. This is also good for invoicing purposes, so you can invoice in one go. So if we just select that job, let's just do this one and import. So we can see there, that job's being completed and then that one's bringing it in together. And then if we go to financial, you would be able to invoice both those jobs in one go rather than invoicing them separately. But like I said earlier this morning, there's a separate invoice webinar should you wish to join that. So just to confirm, the purpose of importing this job over is to show you that the importance of being able to see the history of the jobs, because without this one being imported, you may not have been able to see it actually gone back. Ignore the dates and the job types, but that's what it would show you. Now, if we save that, so let's say with this job here, we actually let's go back today. Sorry, there's lots of jobs here. Right, if I click into the schedule and just quickly create a job. There we go. And as I double clicked into the schedule, you can see there it's already put in the date and time and the engineer or operative doing the job. So that saved me some time by putting that information in. So if I save that, let's say with this job, we pretend it's been completed and we actually need to go back next week. So what we want to do is turn this job into a group job. So if we duplicate at the bottom, I've just copied this job reference for ease, but you can put in whatever reference you want. And it says move original job to new group. So we want to move this one over and click yes. Now if I click save, so pretend that one's the completed one, and then this is the one which we need to go back to the following week. So again, it's another way of easily being able to see the history of the jobs. Now, moving on to importing jobs. So there's two ways you can import jobs. If we go to Unscheduled, I just hide all of these. Scroll down, you can import there, or you can go to Display, List, and Import. So if I import, here's one I prepared earlier. So my file, I'll show you what it looks like actually. So job importing might be really helpful for you if you've got 100 jobs, that you or sites that you tend to go to often. Instead of manually creating the job every single time, this might be a quick way for you to do it. So here are the columns. So this is our template. It's important that you follow this or else the system won't be able to read the information that you're importing. So as you can see here, not all filled in, so it's not actually mandatory that you put all of this in. So contact reference, if your customer is already in CRM, has a contact reference, you can just put in the contact reference there and the system will know to pick up that specific customer. And then you don't need to put in contact name, contact group, and so on. If you want to create the customers, then you would need to put this information in. So as you can see, you can put all this in, but I'm not doing that for now. Job type, so this one that must exist in the system. So as you can see there, and then job start time must be in this format. So you've got the date, the full date there, and the time in seconds. So if I come out of that, and then as you can see here, I imported it over, and then it's picked up the contact name because it matches. So it is also important that the headers are the same as these groups, sorry, as these drop downs here, because it's much easier when it's imported because it matches, rather than you finding out which one, should that one match with. So if we go to address, postcode, you can see it's picking it up there automatically. I've not had to select city, and so on. So I could have had 100 and odd jobs there. So it would have imported the jobs really quickly rather than importing them. So rather than manually creating them. You can see here, your import is now going to be processed, so you'll receive a summary email once the import has been completed. So this job has been created. Sorry, no, it's not that one. It's just taking its time. We'll give it a few moments to think about that. It definitely does work because I tried it before. If I go to my account administration now, I'm going to be moving on to job group templates. So if I go to schedule and then job group templates, so these can be used for various reasons. So it might be, as you can see here, there's some in there called 5-day jobs, 3-day jobs, annual service, second fix. So if I create one and call it install, second fix and service. So some of your jobs, you might do an install and then you may go back a few days later to do a second fix. And then as a proactive job or, you know, the standard as part of your contract, you may go back a week later or 3 months later as part of the service. So this it creates 3 jobs for you within a group job. So it's just easy and it's set. So let me just call them. So you can say all jobs within the group are at the same contact as the group's contacts. I'll just say yes for now. All jobs within the group are scheduled to the same resource. So if you know the same engineer operatives going back, then click yes. In most cases, I'm sure they won't be, so click no. Jobs appear in group on device, so you can do that if you want. Now, if I click add, so I know I've got 3 jobs here. I've got the install, second fix, and service. So my first job type will be install. Let's just say it's that. Second fix. There we go. And then any type. And then let's just say that's the service. So we've got the bathroom installation, the second fix, and then the service. Now, if I click save, do you want to set up automatic referencing for this template? We'll just say yes. Why not? And click save. Now, if we go to schedule, there's 2 ways where you can apply this job group template. So it's here, new jobs, and select the template. Or let's say you're in a customer, created that customer twice, and then go to jobs. So at the bottom, you also have the option to do that there. So if you're already in CRM, you know, you don't need to come out of it, go into the schedule and do that. You can just do that from here. So if I go to group template and just type that in because there's so many there. So job group contacts picked up Bob, Billy, because I'm already there. Now you can say, I know that Danielle is going to be doing this on Thursday at 9 o'clock. Actually, I don't know when the other 2 will be done. So if I create the group job and let's open it up. So you can see there, it's preset, bathroom install, the service, and second fix. And you can see that it knows I'm going in a couple of days at that time. So it's just another easier way of creating a group job. And if your jobs are standard, then you may as well follow that process. Now moving on to job automation. So if I go to my account, administration, job types. Now, if we just do boiler install, let's say. So if I go on this job and edit, on the top right, you have the automation feature. So this is where you can add automation. So this is when a job has been completed or completed with issues, you can say, create another job automatically. So job status, let's do a -1, completed with issues. If it might be any comment, no access, more time required, and so on. Let's just do no access for now. So I want to create the exact same job type because I still need to go. So I'm going to do boiler installation. Group the jobs together, yes, so I can see the history that originally I had no access and I still need to go back. Group contact, let's say it's the parent, allocation of jobs. So you have a few options. So immediately trigger to the engineer who's already doing the job. So that looks for the soonest that engineer can go. Also do that, but if it's got assistants on the job, include them. So if there's an apprentice or someone else on that job, then get them to go to the job as well. Unallocated. So because you might, in most cases, you won't know when you can actually go back at that exact moment when it's created, then you would do unallocated. So field mapping is the job contact, job description. So if you want to use the same job description as you did in the previous job, then you can do that. I'm just going to say no to all of this because I'm conscious of the time. Actually, apart from that one, skill constraints, attachments. So if there's any attachments on the previous one, you can attach them if you want. And same with skill constraints, vehicle constraints. Say no. There's manual mapping. So if there's worksheet answers from the previous one, again, you can map that over, but I won't go into that right now. So if I click save, now I'm going to create a job with a boiler installation and complete it with issues. Bearing in mind that I'm doing this on the website, normally it's triggered by your engineer or operative. I'm just showing you how it works. So let's quickly create a job, boiler installation. Say 7 PM, boiler installation, say. So as you can see there, that's my job. So if I view that job and go to activity, so I'm just forcing the negative result. So if I go to job activity and start it, let's just do that actually. And then you can see there it started. If I complete with issues, no access, and save. So now you can see that because I selected completed with issues, this job here has thumbs down, no access, and it's created a new job automatically. So instead of someone remembering, oh, whenever there's no access, we've got to create a new job, this will automatically create the job for you. So again, it saves some time. And if we go to activity, you can see in the job activity that's completed with issues, no access, and a new job was created, triggered by this job. So I would recommend that you use that if it's relevant to your industry. So if we click save, now the next point is schedule from map. So if we go to the map, click on the eye here. So if we go to jobs and tick, so what we're saying is show me jobs. Let me just zoom into the UK. So if I hover over that, you can say show me jobs during these periods. Let's just do the last week. You can filter by specific person, type of jobs, job category. And you can say show me completed jobs as well. So let's say show me unscheduled jobs, not completed ones. Group them together. Untick that. So you might be able to see if I tick that, see those numbers. So that's how many jobs there are within that area. Now if I untick that, it spreads them out so they're not all put together. Now if I right click, let's just zoom in a bit more. So let's say this job here, I know it's 3 PM on a Friday and I want to squeeze a job in. So what you could do, say Eric's really nearby. I'm going to schedule it to him. So if we view the job, you can go on date and time, just like with a normal job, and then schedule to Eric. And say, so now Eric's got that job. I'll refresh in a sec. So essentially, again, it's another way, just try and squeeze more jobs in and easily being able to see where the engineers or operatives are and then scheduling a job. So the next thing on the list is big change icon. So I mentioned this in the webinar this morning. So if you type in big change icons, I know this is the advanced session, but this is really useful for you to share with new starters and just with anyone to share within your office. So this tells you the job statuses, the vehicle resource statuses, alerts, tracking events in the map, and customer activity. So it's showing you the symbol and what it means. Also, with regards to features discussed today, so for example, the job automation, if you typed in automation and select follow-on jobs customer automation, you can watch this video. It might be more helpful for you to play and pause, or create follow this process here. So as I said, there's quite a bit that we've discussed, so feel free to really do use the help center and search various features within the system. There are other webinars going on, so if you want to join other webinars and get in touch with Road Crew,